Welcome back to another Mile High Brew Review. I'm Mike Trinidad, and today we're talking to the leaders of Old Colorado Brewing Company in Wellington, Colorado. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what got you started in the industry?
Well, back in 1989, my grandpa actually started the first brewing company in Fort Collins, and he did that till about 2002, and he kind of paved the way for a lot of different brewers and breweries around the northern Colorado area. And it's always been a dream of mine to restart that after he got out, and with Tara's help, we actually had that chance. So we were really excited.
Awesome. So you guys do home brewing at all, or how did you guys come up with the recipes that you guys have?
So my grandpa's recipes, we still have a bunch of his recipes from back in the day. So some of the first brews of Fort Collins are actually here with us today, which is really cool. We have probably 12 different recipes that we can go through. And of course, I've been homebrewing for about 10 years. So, I took that in the hand and I tried working with his brews to see what we could do, honestly, and see how they would go. And it's been great ever since.
So how about you, Tara? What kind of got you interested in brewing and beer?
Brandon.
Nice.
His family legacy. It's a good story. It attracted me right away. His dream became my dream. So I supported him to get to where we are today, and it's been fantastic. And I didn't realize I love the beer industry as much as I do.
It's incredible.
It's great people.
Speaking of great people, Sam Townsend is the head brewer for Old Colorado Brewing Company. What kind of things do you feel inspire you for your beers?
Honestly, everything inspires me for beer. I'm a very big fan of fermentation in general, and for me, I'm really inspired by brewing in season, trying to stay with the traditions of brewing, and also maintain like the integrity, not just put a lot of crazy things in the beer, but just kind of stick to how things were made traditionally. I play a lot off of recipes that Brandon's grandfather made 20 years ago, and so along with that, I try to stay traditional with recipes that he's never done. So everything I do, I try and stay as close to his original recipes as I can. While I do have to modernize some of the ingredients based on what's available to me now, but I stay as close as I can to his original recipes back from the 80s. And also, I read a lot about like monastery brewing and that kind of thing. So I'm very steeped in traditional beer brewing, and I like to stay as close to that as possible, not just throw as much hops as possible into whatever beer I'm making, just kind of stay true to the style, play off the malts, really showcase the yeast, because the yeast is the star. A lot of people don't think about it. Most people are concerned about hops, but I try and make things that are more yeast-centric and malt-centric and balanced. That's kind of my goal, but everything's inspiring. You can make beer and make it as cool or as bland as you want. It's just kind of your choice.
Definitely. So what got you started in brewing?
Well, one of my earliest memories is like me in diapers squatted down helping my dad put quarter teaspoons of sugar in homebrew bottles, and he didn't even brew that much, but I just have this memory of me brewing with my dad. Well, I wasn't brewing, but helping him with brews, and that, I don't know, I guess it just kind of stuck with me. And after I moved to Colorado, that's pretty much when I really started getting into it, and as soon as I did my first batch, I was hooked. Like the process, I have a scientific background. I didn't actually go to school for brewing. It's just something I picked up all on my own, and I just went head first. I built my own all-grain system, as most people do, but I went way beyond like the cooler. When I'm brewing, that's when I'm like focused and calm, and I'm just kind of doing what I like to do. So that's kind of what kept me going up the ladder, and just seeing what happens through this natural process that you just kind of incubate in as controlled as an environment as you can get. You just kind of help the yeast do something, and it's like magic. Early people, way back, they thought it was magic. They didn't know what yeast was, and I still think it's magic, but I do know what yeast is.
What do you feel is the biggest difference from homebrewing to becoming a head brewer and running basically the beer for this brewery?
Well, I would say as a home brewer, a lot of times you start off not really, especially if you started homebrewing in Fort Collins or anywhere with like really good water, you don't really think about water, but that's something that I've noticed making the transition from home brewer to pro brewer is just water and yeast health are so much more important than a home brewer necessarily recognizes. Like you know it as a home brewer, but the pitch that you buy at the homebrew shop, it's a really substantial yeast pitch, and it can pretty much handle low oxygen conditions, and you don't notice the water quality as much as you do on the big scale. But you really have to watch your water quality, you really have to watch your oxygenation, you really have to watch your yeast health, and just really be monitoring that stuff, and that's what makes a difference in the beer itself, definitely. So water, I would say, if I had to sum that all up, water.
One of my favorite parts of the brewery when I visited was the actual location, which is inside of a 5-story grain elevator. This grain elevator is constructed of wood timbers that are stacked on top of each other for a giant and very cool looking building.
We're in a 1922
Yep.
grain elevator, so we remodeled the inside of the grain elevator into our tap room. So it's a unique and comfortable, homey space that you just got to see to believe.
Awesome. And what, as far as the community goes, have you guys kind of been investing in? Have you guys been, helping the community with events? What kind of stuff do you guys do for the community?
We do hold events here, a lot of charitable stuff as often as we can. We try to support any local charities that need a place to hold an event, or portion of our tips go to charity every month. So we're trying to reach out and support the community in any way that we can think of.
We do concerts in the park down here, and during the summer we have 3 concerts going on this summer, and we're going to be down there serving beer up while we listen to some music. So get out there in the community and give back to the people that give to us. That's really exactly what we want to do.
Perfect. So you guys, as far as Wellington goes, you guys kind of have a hold of this spot right now. So, how does it feel to be like the go-to brewery within Wellington?
It's awesome, and the reason that I like it so much is because my grandpa had the first microbrewery in Fort Collins, and I'm kind of following in his footsteps. We're kind of following in his footsteps as the first microbrewery in Wellington, and we're very, very happy to have that honor. Honestly, it's great. We call Wellington home, and there's no better place to have our brewery than home.
We've lived here 12 years,
Yeah.
almost 12 years, and we love this little town and watching it grow, and no better place to do it is just a mile from our house.
Yeah,
So.
pretty close.
Awesome. Speaking of growing, it's a year since you guys have started the brewery and opened it. So what have you learned within that year when it comes to operating a brewery, creating beers for a brewery, and kind of becoming part of the community?
That's a really good question. We've learned a lot. I think maybe the number one lesson is planning. I'm a planner. I live by planning everything. And there's so many questions and so much unknown when you open up a brewery, especially in a small town. The town's never done this before. So it was uncharted territory, and the more planning you can do, the better. But also, one thing I really enjoy is the people that we've met through this whole thing. We've met some
Incredible.
amazing people. But yeah, I guess planning is probably the biggest challenge.
Honestly, have your P's and Q's ready to go, man. Just have everything in line. Like she said, plan. You just never know what's going to come up during your construction phase or your grand opening scheme or whatever's going to happen. It's an unknown animal, and until you actually get there and go after it, you just don't know what's going to happen. So plan. That's a great idea.
So what does craft beer mean to you guys?
Honestly, craft beer is life, because you sit down with a beer to anybody and you can talk about anything with them. It kind of bonds a lot of people that come in. There's not a person out there that hasn't had a beer, and that they like at least, as well. So it's nice to be able to talk about this industry that's so rapidly growing and get everybody else's opinion on it. It's amazing to see what everybody has in their back pocket about beer. You just never know what kind of stuff's going to come up. So
I think it's artistic. It's the best word I can use to describe craft beer. Everybody may have a pale ale or a stout, but when you take that base beer, a good base beer, and you add flavors and do fun things and make a sour, it's interesting how you can take a good beer and make something different and more exciting. And I just like tasting the different artistic versions of a beer.
Craft beer to me means like complete freedom. You know, you're not confined to drink or enjoy any one type of beer. If you're willing to go through the motions and put in the effort, the world is your oyster. You can brew whatever you want to make. You can tailor it to how you want it to taste. Like if you drink an IPA someone, you're like, man, that's just like that's a little too much for me. You can dial that back. And craft brewing is what you get the freedom to express your taste and let other people also enjoy maybe where you're going. Maybe they don't know quite as much as you, or they don't know that they even need to know more than you, and they just enjoy what you're kind of bringing to the table. And it's cool to make a batch of beer and see people enjoy it. That's not something that is really that explainable. It's cool.
What do you want to say to bring in that crowd and say, come to Old Colorado Brewing Company?
Come try Northern Colorado's first beers.
One of our taglines is, the history of Old Colorado. And we took the original craft beer recipes from 1989 and beyond, and we still serve them today. And we've adjusted those recipes here and there as well. But to taste those original recipes is fun and different, and you can see how the craft beer industry has evolved around what we started with, what Brandon's grandfather started with. So that's kind of exciting. And then what better place to do it in a 1922 grain elevator, which encompasses our vision of this brewery.
It's not every day you can walk into a almost 100-year-old grain elevator and have a beer. The construction, the ambiance, everything about it is incredible, and it pairs well with our beers. So
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time, and come on down to Old Colorado Brewing Company, everybody, and maybe you will meet these two beautiful people.
Thank you.